Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP webinar. This is the penultimate episode of our advanced course, and today we are going to look at curtain walls, how to create large glass surfaces with multiple mullions and multiple glass panels. My name is Zoltán Tóth. I'm working for CADline as a partner manager, but in my spare time I also like to model things. So today I'm not only going to show you how to create things, but I'm also going to tell you the little tips and tricks I picked up along the way. As always, I urge to ask your questions on the right hand side in the chat bar or below the video, and I'm going to do my best to answer the questions. Now, for those of you who are new to us, this is a part of a longer webinar series. Last time we looked at how to create suspended ceilings and lighting elements. So if there's anything you don't understand, I suggest you look at our content on the website ARCHLineXP.com/webinar, where you can actually look at other courses we had in the past, including advanced courses in architecture and interior design, furniture design, and all the other elements. So if you're looking for something, another topic maybe, another focus, then make sure you visit the website. It's all free and it's all accessible. If you want to follow along the course I'm doing today, you can download the course material from the website. So you can download the files and you can download the course guide, latter of which I highly recommend, because it's not only has all the illustrations, but it has all the numbers and dimensions I'm going to use. So if you want to replicate what I'm doing now, you can download all this content and then you can jump right at it. So curtain walls, what are these? Now the illustration says it's quite good. So it's basically a large glass surface with divisions, but they also, so they are in between windows, so openings and walls. They are openings, but they act like walls. I'm going to explain in a second what that means. First, in ARCHLine, you know that there's a curtain wall tool, and with that you can create complex elements, especially if you have like a larger office complex like this one. So it doesn't matter what kind of surface you're looking for, you can fine-tune the curtain wall tool to create something like this. Now, today's show is going to be about something a bit simpler, but the concept, the tools I'm using are the same. So using the tools I'm showing you now, you can create things that you see on the screen right now. But for now, we are looking at a very simple example of an office building. So this is going to be a very simple office, and I want to create partition walls, which are going to be glass surfaces. So the four things that we are going to look at today is how to create a curtain wall, so as to act as a room divider, and then we look at how to convert an existing wall into a curtain wall, because we can do that too. We are going to look at how to join multiple curtain walls into new constructions, and also we are going to create unique and customized glass insets. What I'm thinking of maybe is a panel of glass bricks over here and there. So we are going to look at all that. So let's start with how do we actually, set up a curtain wall? In our software, there's a property for everything in here. So if you want to create a wall, you already covered that. You can customize how high the wall should be, how thick it should be, what the material should be. Now it's all the same for the curtain walls. You just right click and open up the properties, and here actually you can save multiple versions of this curtain wall. You can have customized styles, but these sizes and these properties are not good for me because I want to create something sleeker. So what I do, and again, don't forget that I'm using values which are in the course guide, so if you're wondering where these numbers are coming from, then that's where they are coming from. So I'm going to have to use a curtain wall which is higher than this. So I'm just going to say that the width should be 7,150 and the height is actually 2,600 millimeters. So now I have something which we call a box width and box height. Does this mean that the curtain wall would be just this size, so you cannot make it smaller? No, this is just the overall size. I'm going to show later on what I mean by that. But before I proceed, let's talk about units. So in units in ARCHLine, if you look at the bottom right, you see which kind of unit we have right now. We are in millimeters, but if you want to change it to something else, maybe meters or anything else, you can go to settings, units and angles. It's over here, and here you can change the input values. So just a side note, this is where you can set things up, but I'm going to use it in millimeters now. So going back to the curtain wall properties, I know that we already set up the width and the height. And the next thing we have to set up is actually the thickness of the of the element, because this is going to act as a wall, so it has a thickness value which I can fine tune. So if I want to change it to anything else, I can. Now I'm going to use it as 100 millimeters, but you know, I could change it to 50 and it's going to be thinner, but I'm just going to crank it back to 100 millimeters. This is just, it turns yellow because of refreshing, so if you refresh the drawing, it's going to be turning back to normal. So next thing we have to define is the basic geometry. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, it's mostly concerned about the mullions. So this vertical and horizontal divisions, you can customize how thick they should be. So we know that the mullion thickness should be 30 millimeters. You see that the drawing changes whenever I do that. And let's look at this division now. If I say that the width is, instead of 5 millimeters, is 30 millimeters, I see that the mullion changes. So everything happens real time. So let's now change the mullion's material, which from steel I have to change it to something else. Let's go with, I don't know, aluminum. And it should be a bright one. So here we go. Redraw. Now it looks like that, but there's a couple of other things I still have to change, and that is the glass material, because it has to be something bluish or turquoise. So, and I think this is fine. So I'm getting there. So this is what I'm looking for, but there's a couple of things what I'm not satisfied with, and that is, well, let's check out the number of divisions. 3 divisions horizontally and 3 vertically. That is fine. You could change this to something else. So then the curtain wall changes. I'm just going to set it back to its original value. Check out the frame width and frame thickness is fine, and the frame material, that's still steel, so I just have to change it to something else. And that has to be aluminum. Bright one for that matter. So let's just hit update, and the frames I'm not going to change, except for this. The corner column exists. I'm going to disable that. So this would be important for another purpose, and we are going to work on this later on. So before I proceed, obviously I could save this into a customized style, because I don't want to spend too much time creating this over and over again. I'm just going to say that this is a new style, and it's a webinar curtain wall, and here we go. So now, from now on, I can retrieve this. If I go back to the normal one, I can go back to the webinar version. So I'm just going to hit OK. And now comes the fun part, when we actually start positioning the curtain wall, right? I want to have a division. I want to seal off this office. I'm not really a fan of one-room offices. I like to work in my separate box, because that's just the way I am. So I want to seal this off, but I want to make it transparent. So you can see that the colleagues are not spending too much time on solitaire on the internet. You want to see them, so you want to create like a transparent portal here. So what we do is that we jump into the 2D. Right here, I'm modifying the 3D as well, so I see what I'm doing, like that. And I want to create a wall going from here to there. So what I do, I go to curtain walls, curtain wall, and now I make sure that my customized style is placed. And what I do is that I click on the starting point of the curtain wall, and before I proceed, let's just look at this, because this looks like a wall, right? So when you're placing a wall, you do it the same way. You have one blue reference line, and you have the orange part which is added to the wall. Now I want to position this this wall in the middle of this line. So what I do is that I either push the F5 key so that the wall would be moved back and forth, or I can just use this toggle over here to move it left or right. So now I'm positioning it to the middle. I'm satisfied with that. So I'm just going to draw it like that. So when I do that, right away the curtain wall is placed. So because of the values I submitted in the beginning, because of the height value, this is already good. Now another thing that we have to know is that I did define that it should be 7,000 something millimeters long, but this is actually longer. The software doesn't care. If the placed item is bigger than the encompassing box, the software is going to create that. But one huge problem with this curtain wall is that it doesn't have a door. So you can't really enter and exit this location. And that is when the interaction between doors, windows, and curtain walls come into the picture. So what I do is I go into the 2D, and I look for a door which is fine for my purposes. Let's look for something single leaf glass door would be fine. So I'm just going to drag it and drop it. And I'm going to place it from wall endpoint. And do I even know where it should be? Well, I do. I know that it should be... let's just position it first, and then I'm just going to bother with the exact position later on. I know for a fact that the distance from wall line should be 5 millimeters. Otherwise, not sure if you see it, but the door is actually growing out of the wall. So I have to change this value. I'm going to say this is 5 millimeters. So now it's nicely pushed into the wall, and then I have to define where the door actually is. I'm just looking for a value in which I can change that. I think the best way is to push it to the middle of the... I think it's in the middle, almost in the middle. You are going to see later on why that's relevant. So once I have the door inserted, the next thing I have to do, I have to change its height value, which I can do in several places. I can do it from the floor plan, so I can change it right here. I can change it in the properties. I can change it in the 3D. Use whichever is more convenient. I'm going to do it from the floor plan now. 2490 is the size of this door. So it's now going all the way up to the ceiling, almost all the way. So what I want to do is that I'm not really satisfied with how the divisions look like. So that's the next thing I have to change. And well, there's actually another thing, but that's really just a matter of taste. The door doesn't have the same material as the curtain wall. So I want to change that. I click on the curtain wall, right click, find material. Now I have this turquoise glass, and I just drag it and drop it onto the door, and I'm just going to replace the material with another one. So now it's better. So next thing, I have to edit the layout somehow. I want to make sure that the divisions are not this kind of weird, not that pleasing visually. So what I do is that I'm going to go to the 2D, magnify it, click on the curtain wall, right click, and I say I want to edit the layout. And what it does is that seemingly this is just a two-dimensional copy of the walls, but actually it's much more. Because if I go here and change any of these divisions, then the divisions will be changing on the 2D and the 3D as well. Let's see an example. For instance, I want to change this division, and I want to move it. Let's say I want to move it 1400 from that side. So I can do that like that. So if I do it, let me just jump into the 2D. I'm in 3D. I see that it's moving. So if I want to, for example, change any kind of values, for example, this. By the way, if you ever close the layout, you can just right click on it and say continue editing layout, because if you don't do that, it's just a bunch of lines. So right click, continue editing layout, and then I'm just going to move this from here. I'm going to move it, let's say, how far should it go? It should go, I have to find a reference point, so I'm just going to say that from there it should be 1400, like that. So this way you can fine-tune how your divisions look like. Again, I'm just going to show you that again. If you move anything, you see this green dot, and that would show you the element would move in relation to what. So if you keep on hitting the tab key, then the green dot is going to move. So if you want to change the distance between the mullion and the corner point, then just make sure that the green dot is at the corner. Or if you want to change its distance from the door or from the other mullion, just keep on hitting the tab key, and then the green dot is going to move the way it should be. So we know that this mullion is now 1400 from the corner point. Let's amend the other one as well, so make sure that it's nice. Let's just hit the tab key until it goes into beginning, and 1400 would be fine. So I think it's symmetrical to some degree. So let's go to the 3D and adore what we have done. I think this is good enough. So next thing is we are going to go more into the details of layout editing. And we are going to go a bit more experimental with the mullions and divisions. So let's jump to the second office. And again, seal it off with the same things as we did before, with some minor exceptions. So when you want to draw a curtain wall, you have two choices. You either go to the curtain wall menu and draw it like that, or you can pick up an existing curtain wall, right click, and say create similar. You know, whichever you are more familiar or more comfortable with, that's what you should be using. So again, I'm going to draw a curtain wall here. just let me adjust the 3D so that you can see. In fact, let me just magnify it a bit so that way you can see it nicer. Okay, so again, next thing I have to do, I have to position a door. I already have a door in my model, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm just going to say this has to be move a copy, and for now I'm just going to push it somewhere on the drawing. I don't care where it is because I'm going to move it later on somewhere else. So I'm just going to make a copy, and I'm going to say that this door is 1 meter, so 1,000 millimeters from the corner point. And then I want to change the opening direction. So actually, instead of the direction, I want to mirror it. So I want the fixed panel to be here and the door would be there. So I'm just going to say I'm mirroring left and right. And the last thing, really last thing, I want to make it go from inside to outside like that. So now I have that covered. And then I think the material is fine, so I don't have to change that, and the distance from wall line is good as well because I copied it from the original element. But the thing I'm looking for is the sort of like a change of the divisions. I don't want to have horizontal divisions. So what I do is that I open up the curtain wall properties. Now I go to the basic geometry, and instead of having 3 vertical panels, I only need 1. If I do that, then the horizontal divisions and the horizontal panels will be gone. So now I have this very nice vertical divisions. That's fine. So I'm just going to hit OK. It just changes things for a second, and then I have a very nice large portal which I like. So this should be like an executive suite with all these large glass surfaces. But again, there are some problems. Maybe you don't see it right away, but if you go into the settings, you would see that this is actually not done. So I have to go to the layout again and fine-tune this curtain wall a bit. So if I right-click, I say edit layout, I see that there is an issue over there. So what is that even? That is actually one of the vertical divisions, which I'm not sure if you can see it in the 3D, but this would be, it's right over there, this tiny thing. What this means is that even though I don't see it, there's an extra vertical division. What do I do? Well, I could go to the settings and disable the vertical division, but then I would get rid of the other division as well. So instead of making that, I'm going to push this division over here. There are 2 ways to do it. You can either go here and move it vertically, or you can type in the values. I'm now going to say that this should be going here. By the way, when you are positioning something, you see that the cursor is on the left hand side and the mullion to be moved on the right hand side. But if you want to flip it, because this is your reference point, but you want the mullion to move here, you just hit the F5 key or just toggle it over here, and then if you click, the division would be at the right place like that. So now I have moved the improper division to somewhere else. Next thing I'm hoping to achieve, I want to move the remaining 1 division because maybe it's not in the middle, so I'm just going to check it real quick. Say move, and it should be from this point. Let's just hit the tab key to move to that point. It should be 2200. Again, you can do this graphically. You can do it based on drawings you have, but if you had exact values, it's much better to do it that way. So once we have the main divisions, one thing I don't like is the, let's just go closer so you can see that the values of the mullion, they are too thick, or maybe they are too thin. So how do you change that? You go back to the layout and you go, you click on the mullion and you say you want to edit the mullion, and here you can change the mullion thickness and width 1 by 1. So if you want to make this a little bit wider or thicker, you just say that the thickness is going to be 40 millimeters. And when you do that, you see that it changes. So every single mullion 1 by 1 can be changed. And again, let's go back and change the thickness and the height and the width as well, because that just would look nicer. So that's how you change it 1 by 1. And again, you could copy these properties to other elements as well. So let's just count what we have so far. So far we have one meeting room with vertical and horizontal divisions. We have another one with customized mullion thicknesses. So this one, for example, is customized. But then we have another meeting room which we have to seal off, and we have to create a curtain wall here. Before I do that, let's just think about how do we create a curtain wall. In the beginning, I mentioned that you can either create a curtain wall as a new element, or you can use a wall and turn it into a curtain wall. Now, that would be most time useful when you're doing, for example, reconstructions or things like that. So let's just go back to the 2D and investigate this wall, for example. Let's assume that this is a reconstruction project. You don't need this wall anymore, so you just get rid of it. And instead, you are just going to create a wall which goes from here to there. So no curtain walls here, just a normal wall. So let's click on wall and use a very simple one layered 10 centimeter or 100 millimeters thick wall like that. So we go all the way like this. So now I have a wall, so it's completely sealed off. And my task, let me just move here so you can see that. My task is to turn this into curtain walls. So how do we do that? First of all, let's make sure that the values are correct, the height is correct, the thickness is correct. All I have to do, I go to the 2D or 3D, whichever is more convenient for you. And you will go to building, curtain wall, and convert wall to curtain wall. And then you click on the walls and the curtain wall would be created. Now, how did the software know which kind of curtain wall to use? Well, it was defined by the styles. And here I have, I think, a sketchy mistake because the wall was too high and now the curtain wall is reaching into the ceiling. So you can actually change that. You're just going to go change height. And you can do it like that. Or, and it's another good tool, you can say that you click on this curtain wall, right click, copy properties, disable all the properties, and the only properties you want to set up is the height. And then you click here, you click there, hit enter, and then the software would be sort of decreasing it back. Let's just try it another way. What was the value again? I think the height value should be 2600. That was the culprit. So 2600 would be fine. Let me just get rid of that. The problem was that when I was drawing the wall, it was way too high. So I'm just going to go back to wall and create a 10 centimeter thick wall with 2600 height. Yeah, it was too high. So it was going sort of into the suspended ceiling. This one is good. And off we go, drawing the wall again back to where we started. So let's just position it like that. And then we turn it into a curtain wall. Again, you could do it in the 3D, 2D, but just make sure that you click on the right elements. Because otherwise, if the wrong elements are picked up, then the connection would be not good. So, and I have one meeting room sealed off with this very nice curtain walls, but the problem is, again, the same. There's no door, there's no elements to sort of enter and exit this location from, and I don't like the division. So the door is the first thing I'm going to amend, and I can do that by just picking up this door and copying it onto the other element, like that. Let's assume it's like this, and I'm just going to say that the distance from the corner should be again a meter. I think that would be fine. Sorry, that was 1 millimeter. I forgot that I worked in millimeters. Instead, I have to go with 1000. And if you have put it and for some reason it's not lining up, you could be even moving it vertically. I mean graphically like that. So you can say that you want to bind to this point. So assume that you made a mistake, assume that it's here. And if you want to move it and align it with another door, just click on the door, say move, hit the shift key and move the cursor to the other door, and then they would be lining up. So again, I have to change the opening direction. I think it should be inside. Okay, so now I have the door, and then the age-old topic is the divisions. So that's what I have to figure out for this part, the one on the right. I don't need to have horizontal divisions. So I'm just going to go to basic geometry, and number of glasses vertical should be 1. So this one is good. And the other one, let me just consult my chart, because what we want to achieve is this. So this we have already achieved. Again, if you want to change the Mullion thickness, you can do this like that. And let's delete the horizontal mullions from the other wall as well. Just click on it, go to basic geometry, and number of glasses vertically, just redraw, and here we go. So we have created the nice large glass panels that we want. If you want to recolor things, you can do that, like right now. If you want to go back to find another glass, then you can just find another glass type and just dragging and dropping it and say that you want to modify it like this. So no kind of settings are permanent. You can always go back and change the settings like that. I'm going to undo this with Ctrl Z or with the undo key, but I just want to show you that this is how you can do that. Also, you can, with the same logic, you can recolor the divisions as well. Now, so far we have demonstrated the 3 different versions of a curtain wall with different division types. Now, the final task is what we use when we want to create like glass brick panels. Let me show you what I mean. So in this office, I have a very large wall surface, but this is a very boring and large and inhumane kind of surface. I want to create 2 sort of boxes through which you can see. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. Again, just like with anything else in the design process, there are more ways to answer the same question. You could be using windows for this, you could be using a material for this, but if you use a curtain wall, then you have ability to control the number of divisions, and that is what you cannot achieve with textures. That's something that you can only achieve with a parametric element. Without explaining it too much, I'm going to show you that this is a drawing that we use to cut the walls into the to cut the holes into the walls. So that would be our guide to create the, well, let's call them curtain walls, let's call them glass panels. So let me just find an illustration to show this is what we are looking for. So that is the end result we want to achieve. It's always better to show it instead of explaining it. So how do we do that? Now, there's a tool in the software which allows you to turn a wall into a curtain wall. We have already seen that. But there's another tool which is able to fine-tune the shape of the curtain wall. Now, in this scenario, we don't have a curtain wall here yet, but the wall still is able to add like an inset. So if you go to curtain wall and you say reshape curtain wall and click like that, and then the software tells you that, okay, this is the wall layout. I want to keep the layout, yes. There's a tooltip saying that specify the profile. And then the software tells me, okay, so where do you want the curtain wall to be? And instead of tracking this, I can just go with the paint bucket tool, click on this profile, and then the software tells me that this is the element that we are going to insert here based on this drawing. Why does it look like this? Because that is the style which is default in the software. So we have to change that. We have to go to basic geometry, and we are just going to say that the thickness is 10 millimeters, the mullion width is the width is going to be 80 millimeters, and the glass width is going to be 60 millimeters, and the material should be let's just not change it right now. Instead, let's proceed and change the other values. The number of divisions, 3 horizontally, but vertically it should be 11, like that. Nice. Now I think I have to change the material from bright aluminum to something else. Should be G110 maybe. If I have that, yes I do. I think it is taking shape. So what I have to do, I have to hit OK. Let's see what I've created. So this is how you can sort of punch a hole into the wall and create a curtain wall. The frame thickness is not that good, so I have to change that. I forgot to do that in the first panel. I can do that too. Let's just go back to the drawing and say that this I have to change, and the frame thickness should be. Let's just see where I can actually find that. I think it should be frame, and in the beginning I did show you where to change that. It's just, I think that was the one. The thickness, yes, here we go. So 10 millimeters instead. Let's just change it to 100. And later on I'm going to look this up where you can actually fine tune that. Oh, here we go. So that's what I wanted to achieve. Okay, hit OK. And now I have the right result. There's another one, another panel to go. So I can create that too by doing the same thing, clicking on the wall and say reshape curtain wall. Select the element. And you see when I'm putting down the layout now, I see that the curtain wall panel on the left hand side is already visible. So I have to superimpose my my group over the existing drawing, and then I do the same exercise. This time I'm going to say that this panel is the one I'm willing to work on. The software does remember the last settings, except for the most problematic one, which was the frame width. I think that was decreased to 5 millimeters. And there you have it. So now you have the two panels. If you want to give it a much, I don't know, realistic flavor, you can go all the way to the settings and go a bit crazy about this. Let's go to basic geometry and change the texture to something else. If you have one which looks like a glass panel, for example, glass 20. This should be a picture of a transparent image of a glass brick. Just hit OK, redraw, and then you have a much nicer result with the texture right there. So again, I'm going to change this here as well. So I just go to basic geometry and change it to, well, you don't have to look it up again from the library because it's already in the in-model library. So just click here. Oh, sorry, I accidentally changed the frame material, which was G110. That's what you do when you are in a hurry to. You are so overexcited to create things that you just jump over the details. So here we go. And there you have it. So again, these are transparent. You can see that you can see through it. This is a specialized image that we are using, but you can create these images on your own as well. So just to summarize, curtain walls, what could they be used for? Well, they could be used to create large glass surfaces with the ability to manually fine-tune where the divisions are and how thick, how wide, and how the divisions look like. You can even customize the cross-section profile of the divisions. You can add doors and windows into the elements, and they are going to be interaction with the curtain walls, just like when you're pushing elements into an actual wall. Another huge advantage is that if you have existing walls, you can turn them into curtain walls with just a simple click. And if you want to create an elaborate element, for example, like a glass wall panel, you can do that with the curtain walls. With or without the texture, it's really all cool. But if you want to have the manual ability to control where the divisions are and how they look like, then the curtain wall would be the right tool for that. And again, just remember, combining these tools, you can create things like that. So, well, what I did here, I just did sort of rinse and repeat the same things I learned before, and I created these large portals. Well, going back, I should have aligned the mullions, but you can do that with the layout tool. Now, going back to the original project, I see that I have a couple of questions. Would be good if you could provide some data extraction from your documentation. Sections, quantity takeoff. Okay, this doesn't concern the topic today, but if you go to documentation, you can have quantity takeoff on building elements. So, for example, the number of walls, the number of doors and windows, interior calculations, styling calculations. So today's session was more about the graphic style of things, so how to create things. But if you're looking for quantity takeoff, schedules, and this kind of things, then this is where you can find them. There's another question. Is there a way to create the 3D parts first and then go to attach the part information one by one for documentation extraction? Again, this really doesn't concern today's topic, but here you can do that. And if you're talking about adding data to a 3D element, let's just assume that this is the element in question. You go to pencil and you just add the elements over here, so you can add beam parameters to any kind of element, for example to this chair. If you know the manufacturer, then you can fill up this data, and then that data would be part of your export. And yes, another comment that ARCHLine brought the sunshine back to England. Well, glad to hear that. Here in Hungary it's still a bit cloudy and windy, but things are bound to improve. So what we have for you for next class is another, and actually the last part of the advanced webinar course, and that will be about framed construction. So what we are looking at next is how to create stud work, how to create frame construction with insulation or without, and how to create the things that you see on the screen. So if you are looking for the ability to control not only the wall glass panels, but you also want to create like a framed multi-layered construction, then that would be the show for you. That would be on Thursday, same time as today, and that will be the wrap-up of our advanced course. If you have missed any of the shows and you feel that there are gaps in your ARCHLine.XP knowledge, make sure you go back to the website, and then you can find not only the upcoming shows, what we are doing right now, but also the shows we did before. And if that's not to your palate, you can find other shows which are dealing with documentation. There was some questions today on documentation, so make sure you check out these, because they are going to answer those questions. If you are more into architecture, creating roofs, for example, or customized columns with holes and beams and whatnot, and the interaction between the beams and columns, then these are the courses for you. And if you're looking for furniture designs, we have that covered as well. So again, I hope this preliminary sort of look into how curtain walls are designed was helpful. If you have any questions, as always, keep them coming to my email address, and then see you on Thursday. Until then, happy designing.